Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. I found on the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, pgpf.org website, an article here that I wanted to share with you. And the headline is Spending on Veterans in the Budget. Wanted to just run through it with you, see if we can overturn any rocks, find some nuggets, and so forth. So please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. Every bit of that helps the channel grow and get the word out to more of us. So again, let's jump into it here. I really appreciate all the support. If you want to support in another way, consider being a member. You can do that by going to the homepage. You'll see the highlighted members and a join button. I do my best to get back to all of you members. As you know, if you've watched for any length of time, I am continually finding information to share with you in hopes to eliminate the I wish I would have known, right? Because that is way too often the words that I have heard. So anyway, let's jump into it here. I really appreciate it. Federal spending on veterans has increased sharply in the past 2 decades as scores of veterans returned home from extended wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Many with significant needs resulting from their service. In 2023, spending for the programs that support veterans totaled $302 billion, or about 5% of all federal spending. In addition, lawmakers enacted the PACT Act in August of 2022 to enhance health and disability benefits for veterans exposed to toxic substances during their active duty, which will boost spending significantly. Ensuring our veterans receive the benefits they have earned and deserved, it is a critical national priority. All right, that's good. To shed light on the important topic, this piece examines spending on veterans within the budget and outlines the factors that have pushed it higher in recent years. How does the Department of Veterans Affairs allocate its resources? The Department of Veterans Affairs is the primary steward of federal support for veterans. In general, a veteran is a person who served in the military and who was discharged or retired in conditions other than dishonorable. The vast majority of VA programs provide income security and health care to eligible veterans and their families. There is a pie chart here with the total spending of $302 billion. With 4% going to VA education, training, and rehabilitation, 4% going to VA benefits and services, 42% to VA hospital and medical care, and VA income security, which I'm assuming includes disability compensation, dependency indemnity compensation, survivor's pension, and veterans pension. And that takes up 50%. So moving on, income security programs for veterans. Spending on income security programs for veterans and their survivors totaled $151 billion in 2023. The majority of such spending is about $148 billion and it was for compensation for service-connected disabilities. So remember that a 100% rated veteran who has a spouse and a dependent child, or 2 dependents, is over $4,000 per month tax-free. So that now 100% rated folks are a smaller percentage of the overall. And just to put things in perspective, less than 30% of veterans are connected to the VA for disability compensation. Now, if you look over the past 20, 30 years, the number of veterans receiving disability compensation has increased every single year. Why? It's not because it's easier to get, it's because we are more informed now than ever. Every year is just more information being pushed out there to veterans that and surviving spouses and spouses that rightfully deserve these benefits that were earned with blood, sweat, and tears, and in some cases, life. So let's move on. Oh, it's another chart here, which is pretty sweet. So spending on income security for veterans is more than 5 times what it was 2 decades ago, which is exactly what I'm saying, right? It's about information, right? Now, you're going to hear folks say it's because of, the PACT Act, or it's because of just an easier road into the VA system. And I disagree. It's not really because of that. The easy road that people may talk about, or when it comes to the higher dollar amount being paid for compensation every year, is when they talk about it being easier to obtain benefits, all they're talking about is the establishment of presumptive conditions. That's it. Which, it's the worst of the worst situations. It's you served in this shitty location and were exposed to these shitty things, Agent Orange, burn pits, water, whatever it was, and now you have some horrible disease because of that, and you're being compensated. So anybody who makes it sound, oh, it's easy, you know what, screw off, because this person has a shitty disease because they were in a shitty location being exposed to shitty stuff. Sorry, it just irritates me when people talk about how it's, it was because things were made easier. No, go away. So anyway, the big piece here, in my opinion, why it goes up is, one, awareness, and really that's the biggest thing. The awareness piece, and then cost of living's on top of that. When you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars, or billions, those increases also push it up. So moving back into this, veterans disability compensation. Veterans with service-connected disability, a physical or mental injury or condition that was incurred or aggravated in the line of military duty, are eligible for monthly support. Payments grow in step with disability ratings, and benefits are adjusted for the number of dependents. And you may know all this, but for those that don't, bear with me. The number of dependents, if a veteran has a 30% or higher disability rating, according to the Veterans Benefits Administration Annual Benefits Report, 5.7 million veterans receive an average of $23,505 in disability compensation in 2023. So that's roughly $1,900 a month or so. So that's the average between the 5.7 million. Some more, some less. Remember that the 90% to 100% is the biggest dollar figure jump by more than $1,500 than any other 10% increment jump. In addition, the VA administers 3 pension programs. To be eligible, a veteran must meet criteria related to a period of service and military discharge status, income and net worth, and disability or age. In 2023, the Veterans Pension Program paid an average annual benefit of $14,211 to 153,568 beneficiaries. So 153,568 beneficiaries received, on average, $14,211 per year. Survivor's pension, one of my favorite benefits out there. Survivor's pension, most survivors are eligible for this benefit if the deceased veteran met the requirements for the Veterans Pension Program and the survivor meets the same net worth requirements. Survivors include spouse and children of deceased veterans. In 2023, there were 109,364 survivors that received an annual average benefit of $10,772 there per year. Now, remember that pension, VA pension, whether it's for the veteran or the survivor, is a low and no income type of a safety net program from the VA. This is not, anything you're going to get if you're bringing in, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to be very low or no income situation. So that's why I like it, because if you're in a very not good situation financially, this can step in and help bridge the gap a little bit. All right. The last pension one here is not really, in my opinion, used that often because there's not that many. Medal of Honor pension. So This program pays a monthly benefit for life to 63 Medal of Honor recipients. The stipend increases each year to reflect the same cost of living adjustment as Social Security. The monthly stipend in 2024 is $1,671, equivalent to nearly $20,060 per year for those 63 Medal of Honor recipients. All right, moving on. Healthcare spending on veterans. The VA is a direct provider of healthcare and health-related services for veterans through an integrated, man, I can't even say it. Interconnected healthcare system. I know what the word is. Whatever. I have issues sometimes. I'm rated for that. Let's move on. So that healthcare system spanning 1,298 sites of care, including hospitals, community living centers, healthcare centers, community-based outpatient clinics, other outpatient service sites, and dialysis centers. Medical benefits include hospital services, prescriptions, medical equipment, and prosthetic devices. To be eligible, veterans must meet minimum service requirements though exceptions are made for veterans discharged due to service-connected disabilities. Now, do not think that VA healthcare is not really that big of a deal, right? VA healthcare is a tremendous benefit, especially if you have to pay for insurance yourself. It's expensive. So having that free healthcare service is substantial. Now, there are, I don't remember how many ways, 10, 12 different ways into the VA healthcare system. By far, the most often way that people are accepted into the VA healthcare system is by way of a service-connected disability. So if you have a service-connected disability, you can go to the VA for healthcare, and if for that condition, for free, forever. If you're on a lower percentage, you might have to pay a little bit if you're seen for other stuff. Once you hit certain thresholds, then it's all just kind of carte blanche and free. All right, so moving on. Upon determining eligibility, the VA enrolls veterans into one of 8 priority groups based on various factors, including severity of disabilities, income, and combat veteran status, among others. The system helps ensure that veterans most in need receive care quickly. This is why 2 veterans both make an appointment with the VA. One is seen in 3 days or 5 days or whatever, and the other takes a month. The different priority groups are what do that. So, moving on. Some priority groups are required to pay co-payments for certain benefits, but none pay premiums, deductibles, or co-insurance for care. In addition to healthcare services, the VA is statutorily required to conduct medical research, train healthcare professionals, as well as support the Department of Defense and Health and Human Services as necessary. How has VA spending changed over time? Spending for the VA has grown substantially in the past 2 decades, particularly as veterans returned home from service in Iraq and Afghanistan. In 2023, total spending included $170 billion in programs governed by permanent law, known as mandatory spending, and $131 billion provided through appropriations process, known as discretionary spending. Programs related to income security are primarily mandatory spending, while healthcare and related services have been funded through appropriations, although recent legislation made some healthcare spending mandatory. Now, this is one of those things when you always hear about, the government's going to shut down. Are we affected? Are we not? Primarily from a monetary receiving your check aspect and getting care at VA, no. But there's other aspects of the VA that receive that discretionary spending through appropriations that are impacted. Moving on, income security spending has grown as the veteran population ages. The growth in spending on income security for veterans is due to an aging population, which increases the number of eligible beneficiaries. One factor driving up spending stemmed from cost of living adjustments and changes to benefit payments, including within legislation enacted in response to COVID-19. According to the Congressional Budget Office, both the number of veterans receiving disability benefits and the average real amount of those payments has increased. For example, while the total population of living veterans declined from 26.4 million in 2000 to 18.3 million in 2023, the number of beneficiaries rose from 2.3 million to 5.7 million. Over that period, inflation-adjusted payments for veterans also rose from $11,900 in 2000 to $23,504 in 2023. So again, we are a shrinking population, veterans, shrinking population. That kind of sucks because if you want to get things done legislatively, right, the beyond the basics, you need a loud voice with a lot of vibrato, right? The more of us there are, the more vibrato we have. Well, you look, in 24 years, right, we shrunk almost 10 million. That's a substantial amount. Now, how can we combat that? Just as I run down this rabbit hole, you take our current number of about 18 million veterans and you go, okay, well, let's add in spouses. Let's add in dependents, right? And create a new number that we speak to. Not 18 million veterans are affected. No. 40 million veteran families, members, right? So veterans, spouses, dependents are affected or impacted. That's a much bigger number to speak to, and that can help get more done, in my opinion. So that's one thing, is we're a shrinking population. Two, the number of beneficiaries receiving disability compensation or pension or what have you went from 2.3 to 5.7 million. Good, because it's awareness, right? It's people like me, it's people like you who go out and say, hey, look, you earned it. Go get it, right? Don't leave it on the table. All right, moving on. Healthcare spending has grown to meet increased demands for veterans. Healthcare spending has grown to meet an increasing demand for services. In the past 2 decades, the number of veterans using VA healthcare has grown, as has the number categorized as having severe disabilities, which raises the demand for healthcare and other services. For example, in 2018, the latest year for which data is available, there were 6.1 million veteran patients using VA healthcare, nearly double the number enrolled in the year 2000. In 2018, 2.2 million veterans were in Priority Group 1, about 5 times the number in the year 2000. That growth is largely attributed to post 9/11 veterans, which have higher disability rates, 41%, relative to all veterans, 25%. Experts note that advances in battlefield medicine and rapid evacuations have resulted in more veterans surviving severe wounds. The VA reports that average per patient health expenditures for disabled veterans, including priority groups 1 through 4, was $13,500 in 2018, or nearly 3 times the average spending for veterans in other groups combined. I will tell you that your post 9/11 veteran is way more aware of VA compensation and benefits than all the years prior. Therefore, their ratings are going to be way more utilized. Getting rated with the VA is going to become a priority for them. And look, here's the thing. If you are rated with the VA for, a myriad of different conditions, you know that if you took 100 veterans, 20 from this period, 20 from that period, 20 from this one, and so on, what percentage of that 100 veterans would qualify for something? Even a 0% rating would qualify for something. How many of those people, if they did their full time, right? They did 4 years, 6 years, They were called for 2 years in Vietnam, right? Whatever. How many, if they did their full time in service, whatever they were enlisted for, and got out with an honorable discharge, 100 veterans, how many would actually qualify for something from the VA, right? And guess what? Today's world, your post 9/11 veteran is going to be more apt to getting things documented prior to getting out, right? Which we all know has been the biggest thorn in the side of VA disability compensation claims. So let's move on here. Recent, let's see, we're getting toward the end. Recent expansion of benefits. In August of 2022, the president signed into law the PACT Act. The law would increase disability compensation and expand healthcare services for a large group of veterans who were exposed to toxic substances and served in certain locations during their military service. It would also increase the number of veterans without service-connected disabilities who can receive healthcare from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Furthermore, the act would reclassify some discretionary spending under current law as mandatory spending. Overall, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that the act would increase spending by nearly $300 billion between 2022 and 2031. Looking ahead, a key part of honoring our veterans' service and ensuring they receive the benefits they have earned and deserve is understanding how spending in this area fits into the federal budget. Indeed, support for veterans should be acknowledged and factored into decisions about our nation's military activities to ensure that lawmakers and the public have full view of the cost as veterans programs, including income security and healthcare support, continue to grow in size. It will be critically important that lawmakers recognize and account for these growing costs in order to ensure that they are consistent with the fiscal capacity of the federal budget in the long run. With that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.